What's up, guys? Broker Gary here. Thanks for joining in. We got a special little interview or introduction of a close friend of mine. His name is Peter Warwick Marsh. He's in Naples, Florida. He is in active real estate as well. And we're just going to kind of go through and introduce ourselves and just do a little interview and coffee chat, if you will. I'll start with myself. I'm Gary Jennings. You guys know me. I met Peter a long time ago in Naples when I first moved there sometime in 2005, 2006. We are all part of a very entertaining text message thread that we call our own fun little Facebook. And we've all been able to keep in touch since we met back then. Very close friend of mine as well. And we have Christopher here. I'll allow him to introduce himself, and Peter as well.
So guys, Chris Thornton. I am Gary's newest and youngest real estate agent. I have a background in IT and web design, and that's actually how I met Gary. He was one of my first web design clients. And yeah, things just kind of took off with our friendship and partnership, and I've joined his team, and we're here making videos now.
Peter?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm Peter Warwick Marsh. I'm down here in Naples, Florida, as Gary mentioned. Known Gary for a long time. I've been in Naples for more than 30 years. Family moved here when I was just a little kid, so a native at this point. And yeah, I sell residential real estate, representing buyers and sellers here in Naples, Florida specifically.
And Peter, who are you? I know, but just for interview sake, who do you have your license with? Why did you choose to join who you did? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm with White Sands Realty here in Naples. So the owner and broker is Mark Weber, longtime friend of mine who I met in my previous professional industry, which is the cycling world. We'll talk a little bit about that. And yeah, I went with Mark primarily because of the personal connection I had with him, but also after interviewing with a number of different brokerages, it kind of fit what I was looking to do. Super fair splits, and more important than that was just a very kind of laid back attitude. There wasn't like a tremendous amount of what do you want to say, kind of forcing you to create business through some channels that both Mark and I kind of personally feel are not necessarily as rewarding. So yeah, that was kind of why I did that. I can really run my own business the way I want and work hard like I do, but not be forced to, like I say, put energy into channels that I just don't really believe in. So yeah.
And I think you said something important that we don't really think about when, you're getting brand new in real estate, and we'll talk a little bit about that and how you got in real estate. But you have to get along with your broker. Like the business model can be amazing. It can be the best brokerage in the area, and they could be slinging deals left and right. But I think you have to be able to mesh with your broker, because you have to rely on the leads that they're providing. You have to trust your broker. You have to trust they have your interests in mind. So you must have had a really good connection in that regard.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, that becomes evident kind of as you work your way through the industry and do various different transactions, and because there's all kinds of stuff, right? Every transaction is different, and
yeah.
There's almost no way to describe that until you are kind of thrown to the wolves and get to experience them. But it really helps having somebody that's experienced on the other side to help you navigate all that. But yeah, like you said, getting along is so pivotal on all fronts of it. Really, we can all agree on that. Just from the initial establishment or rapport with the clientele, whether it's again the buyers or sellers. But yeah, you really need to have somebody backing you up at the office. Your broker specifically, who's going to be A, you're getting along with them, but B, available, knowledgeable. So yeah, there's a lot of different things to take into account. But I would say, yeah, that relationship, because that's what our business is. It's really about relationships. I mean, yeah, we close deals and we write contracts and we do all this other crap, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's so important to make sure that the relationships, not only on your business side with the broker, are important, but also with your clients.
Yeah, and I want to go back those are all super important points. I remember, so when I was working at DR Horton, I just want to touch base on a little bit on when you started, what made you pull the trigger. We did a few videos of how we got into real estate and the importance of trying to help some new agents get in the industry. So I remember it was, I don't know, several years ago, and you were picking my brain quite a bit about real estate and potential of getting with a builder, since I worked with a builder. And I remember back then it was all about timing, and it makes sense because in one of our last videos, real estate, you're not making money right away. It's a hard transition because you're grinding, you're starting all over again. So I lost it there for a second. What inspired you? What made you finally get into it? What are some hurdles you found? Tell us about your start of how it kind of all came.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, you could probably go on for days about that. But yeah, for me specifically, I mean, just to get my background, I was in the cycling industry, bicycle specifically industry, for I was 21 years. So that's where I spent the majority of my my life, with work, and started from, just like with the real estate now, but started from the bottom and worked my way up, and eventually became a partner in a local bicycle shop here, and a very successful one at that.
An awesome one, guys. Awesome bike.
Yeah, it's well, thank you. And the reason I mentioned that, because people might say like, well, what does that have to do with real estate, right? And I thought the same thing too. I was like, man, this is totally different. And in reality, I was dealing with the public, right? I was dealing with everyday people. I was dealing with staff. I was dealing with vendors, and it's really not that different from real estate, which again sounds crazy. So not that I'm advising everybody in retail sales to jump ship and be in real estate, but I'm happy to talk with some more specifics about that if anybody has questions. But yeah, it all really translates. So dealing with those end users was the same thing as dealing with the buyers. Well, as the sellers, they're, at the end of the day, these are all just people, right? And we're here to help quarterback their transaction in real estate. And I was there to help kind of quarterback their transition into cycling, right? I basically, over the years, had just kind of, business had run its course. And as many people know, the brick and mortar retail industry as a whole, not just cycling, has definitely kind of gone through a significant transition, and continues to do so. And it was just the right time for me to basically depart running a brick and mortar, retail location, and all the various challenges that it had, into something that allowed me basically a much greater opportunity for growth, both personally and professionally. To your point of inquiring with you years ago, yeah, I looked into this for a very, very long time. I had a lot of great mentors along the way. I'm fortunate enough to know a couple of guys who were actually the CEOs of some big builders here in this country, through my connections at the bicycle shop, and got to pick their brains one-on-one, which is a super, super cool experience. And I'm still friends and talk to those guys today. So I had looked into going with that builder developer, owner developer relationship with a large builder, but ultimately didn't pull the trigger on that, because that was a really drastic change in terms of there was no opportunity for me to like try that part-time.
Right. You got to be all in.
Yeah, you're all in. I mean, it's a full-time job. Most of those positions are W-2 positions, right? As opposed to these 1099 positions that we are as real estate agents.
For you guys that don't know, 1099, I'm sure you're aware that basically you're self-employed.
Yep, exactly. So, and again, happy to touch on that as well. Although I would advise you to speak with your tax accountant on that. That's not a CPA. But the reason that I got into traditional kind of resale real estate where I'm at now is because I was actually able to do it part-time. So I think that's another important thing that, especially from my perspective, people have dreams, and myself included, of doing it part-time, right? And picking and choosing the transactions you want to do, while still maintaining a career in whatever it is. For me, it's the bicycle industry. For other people, it's whatever they do. And that's a great way to do it. You can get your license. You can go to school at night. You can go to school online. You can do all that. That's great. And there's people that have done it, somewhat successfully part-time. However, for me, and I think, Gary can certainly attest to this, and a number of other people out there, is you will reach essentially kind of a bottleneck at some point where you can do some transactions, probably like within your sphere, right? You can close friends, family, they're going to be the ones that are maybe more understanding and willing to accept the fact that this is not your full-time gig.
Yeah.
But you start getting into stuff like the property I'm at right now, where you're dealing with a particular level of buyer at a particular price point. And it's not always based on price point, but don't get me wrong, it's not just high end. It's even lower end. There's people that they're hiring you to be their buyer's agent. They're hiring you to be their seller's agent.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, they're expecting you to perform a particular job, and they don't want to know, or they don't want to really hear about that the whatever, I'm sorry, I couldn't take you to the house because I was
fixing a crank on a bike.
Yeah, I was fixing it too. A bike got a flat tire or whatever, you pick your scenario, but you have to, in my opinion, and again, I know a lot of people share that, you really have to focus on it full time. And anyway, going into retail real estate as an agent like I am now allowed me to trial it part time and kind of test the waters, so to say,
and have money. And you had some money already, so it's not like you were going into it broke. Well, and it allowed me, and I think this has been a benefit for me. Every sale, to date has been none of it has ever been out of any kind of desperation, right? You hear these stories of where there's agents, I gotta sell.
And all of a sudden they're driven by the fact oh my gosh, I have a car payment coming out. Oh my gosh, and they're like, I got to make this deal happen no matter what. And then you start to cross these ethics lines and things like that. It's like, no, that's not why we're in business.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is it's, we're here, all of us, in the participation today are here for a long time, right? We're not here for a short, quick transaction or two. I plan to be in Naples
for a long time.
Yeah. I plan to be here for a long time. And the best way to grow your business, and the reason, as Gary mentioned, taking time, it's because of that repeat and referral business. And your first year, maybe you only do one transaction or two or three, who knows, and I mean, you'll talk to people, and there's sometimes where they've been doing this for 4, 5, 6 years and they've still only done a few transactions.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, it's there's all kinds of reasons for that, but ultimately it just takes time to build upon those relationships that you created and prove your worth and get things to the closing table and give people a really great experience and have them refer you to their friends, and then you sell their house and buy a new one.
And I think you hit a really good point I want to touch on. And then I'd love to talk a little bit about some of the homes you've sold, some of the success you've had, kind of a little fast forward. We'll talk about a little bit of Chris's here and now from when he started. But one big thing I want to hit on there, I talked a little bit in our videos. So starting a brokerage is literally starting all over again. And a lot of the stuff that we've went through and I've witnessed and learned is a little bit sobering, that, I can assume there's a lot of assumptions. Hey, a lot of these folks that I helped out, that I'm friends with still, I talk with on a daily basis, I was going to have their business. Well, learn that the hard way. That doesn't always work out that way. It costs a lot of money to start a brokerage, because you're going through figuring out as far as, in the early process, we started out what we're going to do for marketing. All of our business plan is firming up as far as procedures, guidelines, things like that. So when you start on the fly, you're figuring out as you go a lot of it. Obviously, if you've been in the industry long enough, I've done it for almost 10 years. It's all in your head, but it's all getting into the business plan to lead a team, to lead a brokerage, to not necessarily just be that sales agent anymore. And I digress a little bit from that. I thought, hey, I'll open the brokerage. I know there's going to be quite a bit of grind. I thought, maybe I'll do some training on the side. I used to be a trainer for 5 years. Let me make a little bit of money training, since I'm going to be spending a lot of money in the brokerage. And I knew this already. I learned in my head that this is not the way to go. It's not possible. if you're going to be successful in one industry, you have to grind it out. You almost have to make that career your second wife. When I worked for DR Horton was my second wife or my wife. I have to do everything required as far as phone calls, emails. Here it's being accessible for Chris, help Chris out, help Jessica out, help Donna out, take phone calls, get the guidelines in place. So there's so much more involved, and there can't be an opportunity for somebody to look at you and go, well, this guy's done so well. He's got all the money. He doesn't need my business. He's over there training. He's over there, selling real estate, whatever. What does he even do? So there's no real, I think there's a good spot when you start brand new, like you just get into it and you have to pay bills, because there's no way to say you're going to start real estate and sling deals right away. Your first year might be one or two if you're lucky. And that might be our brokerage. We might be one or two a person for the first year if we're lucky. I talked to a very affluent real estate agent in the area that made a ton of money. And when she started her brokerage, it was very fortunate to hear that it took her 2 to 3 years for the brokerage to really start off and fly. So all your new folks out there getting the real estate, have a little buffer of money if you can. Time it out properly like Peter did. Chris is going to talk a little bit about kind of how he's timing his out and how his business can still interact with what we're doing. But don't be afraid to dip in slowly and transition. You're not going to hurt yourself. If you know where you're headed, hey, I want to be in real estate. I want to be able to make my own hours. I want to be able to take my own vacations. Then just take your time, get into it, and you'll make your way down that path, and you'll be successful if you do the right things.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to touch on real quick, just to give people like some statistics that haven't looked into it already. And I'd imagine a lot of your viewers are probably from up your way, but just to give you an idea of what's going on down here.
Our 5 million viewers and subscribers.
Our 5 zillion viewers, yes. But to give like the market today in Naples, right? And this is not to discourage people. This is actually, if anything, to encourage people, especially to do that route that we just mentioned, like kind of try this out part-time, with the intention of going full-time if it clicks, right? If everything falls into place, then move full-time. But right now, NABOR, the Naples Area Board of Realtors, which is my local board that I belong to, they are the largest trade organization in Collier County, right? The largest trade organization in Collier County. They're huge. There's about 7,500 to 8,000 licensed realtors here in Naples alone, right? To give you an idea, Naples, like in terms of properties for sale, you're talking about, I think, let's just look at like single family, for example. I think single family today in all of Naples area, there's something like 1,000. So you start crunch these numbers. Nothing. Yeah, you're like, how on earth is that? Like, what are you guys doing? It's crazy. And I bring that up because like there's so much talk about how positive real estate is, and it can be incredibly rewarding. Not even talking about from a monetary perspective. Like Gary, yeah, we can talk on this for days, where like you just get these transactions come together and you're like, man, this is awesome. Like it clicks and everything goes right and it's super rewarding. That was something I didn't even know until I started actually doing it. Right. I just wanted to get into this to have some more independence and grow, blah, blah, blah. And then like I started closing deals and people were like, oh my gosh, love my new house. I sleep better in it because it's more quiet, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, that's a whole separate subject. But yeah, it's try it out part-time because the odds are on paper, at least, they're not always that favorable. There's a lot of people that get into it. So you really need to kind of hop in, be safe, have some money saved up. As Gary mentioned, that's a good idea. And set realistic expectations, right? So yeah. Gary and I are similar too. Like we're go-getters and we're super freaking impatient sometimes, and we're looking at stuff like, man, why are we not closing these big deals? And yeah, one thing I do, this might sound a little weird, a little creepy, but like I'll go on my MLS and I'll look at some of the biggest agents that are doing like crazy business here, and I'll actually go and look at their closed sales from when they started, right? As far back as MLS data goes. So some of this stuff is like late 90s. And I'll look at their transactions when they started out, and I'll be like, oh man, like I close more than that when like yeah. So in all seriousness though, like you look at it and you're like, man, everybody has to crawl, before you walk and then before you run. So it's daunting, and like I said, that'd be a great thing we could talk about, or in another video, of course, is like the troubles that come with the sales, the troubles that come with the brokerages, all the things that you thought were going to happen that don't. I mean, it'll certainly make you a resilient individual in regards to rejection and just this overall disappointment, and that's the thing too, is like, don't get too discouraged. It's tough, and there's going to be some blows that are going to hit you like a sack of bricks, but you
and I think like you said, not everybody was born with a silver spoon. So you look at a lot of these big agents, you look at your Bill Gates, you look at a lot of successful people, they all put their pants on the same in the morning, and maybe some of them were at the welfare line as well. So everybody had a beginning. It's all about your drive. We all have our own skill sets, things that makes Peter special and important, and something that makes Christopher special and important, and skills that work with other individuals. And it's the same with me. There's a little bit you could say real estate, you want to be a chameleon as best you can, but we all are our own individuals. But like Peter said, it is a numbers game. You got to keep the grind going. Don't get discouraged. If you're putting the hard work in, it doesn't matter. If you're doing the right thing and putting the work in, you will be successful.